Hi, this is Gecko Mayhem. This is another Godforge video. This is the first episode in a new series that I'm calling Gods and Legends. I plan to cover, faction by faction, all of the champions that we know in Godforge so far. Since we don't know anything about the in-game lore of these champions, I'm going to look at each one from a historical or mythological point of view. I'll follow that up by discussing what we do know about each of these champions in the game. Since we don't have a comprehensive list of champions for release, I'm also going to talk about which characters I want to see added. Basically, a faction wish list. These videos are for entertainment purposes only. Unless specified, nothing discussed is game canon. The mythology and history I reference is separate from Godforge lore and narrative. Before we dive into this video's faction, I'll cover off a few important points regarding champions in the game. While talking about each champion, I may mention a few terms that may seem unfamiliar to you. These are alliance, affinity, and archetype. Firstly, every champion belongs to an alliance. There are currently 2 alliances in Godforge, Order and Chaos. We're not sure yet what Order and Chaos pertain to, or what the purposes of the alliances is, but I'll be sure to cover this once we have more information. The second term I will use for the champions is affinity. Think of this as a tag or a marker that provides champions with an advantage or a disadvantage against champions of other affinities. It's a bit like rock, paper, scissors. There are 4 affinities in the game, and they are based on attributes. These are wisdom, cunning, strength, and this purple hourglass looking one that we've been calling void. The last term you'll hear is archetype. This is essentially a champion's class, their style of combat, and what they bring to their party. There are 5 archetypes: Brawler, Defender, Disruptor, Invoker, and Slayer. At this point, it's unclear what each archetype does, but I've made a best guess from what we've seen of the game so far. Brawlers bring a mix of damage, Defenders are your primary damage soak, aka tank, Disruptors are casters and debuffers, Invokers are healers and buffers, and Slayers bring the pain. Although we don't have information for many champions yet, where possible I will provide information for their in-game skills. At present, champions have 3 types of skill: basic, core, and ultimate. Some of these skills have been showcased in previous videos, especially some of the earlier champions' ultimate skills. If applicable, I will try to showcase their skills in action. This first episode focuses on the Aaru. Based on ancient Egyptian mythology, the Aaru are made up of some well-known characters such as Ra, Anubis, and Osiris. Aaru is one of the most fleshed out factions in Godforge. It was one of the first factions to be announced, if not the first, and the Fateless team has built quite the roster so far. Let's check out the Aaru. I'm going to start with the heavy hitters, the legendary champions. And who better to kick it off than this jackal-headed god? Anubis has appeared in a handful of Fateless videos, as it was one of the earliest models to be completed and put into the game. With the head of a jackal, Anubis is usually referred to as the Egyptian god of death. He's also the god of mummification, a ritual that brings honor to a deceased person's body. Anubis is associated with Duat, the Egyptian underworld, where his job is to weigh the heart of the deceased against a feather to determine their eternal fate in the afterlife. Though Anubis is associated with death, there is a reverence around death and funeral rites, and he is depicted as a benevolent and fair god, guiding souls and protecting the dead. In Godforge, Anubis is titled Shepherd of Shadows. He belongs to the Chaos Alliance, is a brawler archetype, and his affinity is cunning. I'm actually a little surprised that his alliance is chaos, considering death and funerals are about order and ceremony. I see that as quite the opposite of chaos. Anubis's basic skill is called Soul Guide. He attacks one enemy and damage is based on attack and max HP. If the enemy dies, he has a chance to place a fear on all enemies. His core skill is called Embalming Blast. An AoE attack based on attack and max HP has a chance to place Corrupt and Initiative down for 2 turns. And Anubis's ultimate skill is Weigh the Scales. An AoE attack based on attack and max HP has a chance to place Drain 2 for 2 turns. repeats the attack on enemies with less than 50% divinity. There's also this text about gaining divinity, though as yet I haven't come across any information that explains divinity and how it works. And finally, Anubis's passive is Tomb Watcher. His turn meter increases by 20% whenever any unit dies. Next up, we have Horus, the falcon-headed god. Horus represents the sky, the sun, healing, and kingship, and he was the son of Isis and Osiris. The story of Horus includes battling his uncle Seth, or Set, to avenge his father Osiris' death. In Godforge, this could play out in any way, though hopefully we'll see the enmity between Set and Horus. There is a symbol called the Eye of Horus, which represents healing, protection, and good health. If the team bears this in mind, perhaps Horus will bring holy power to battle? When designing the character of Horus, an early concept didn't quite sit right with the team. After a redesign, doesn't he look like a truly legendary champion? In Godforge, Horus is known as the Eye of Aaru. He's Void Affinity, Defender archetype, and allied with Order, and he is ready to bring the smackdown. Isis was the wife of Osiris. She was associated with funerary rites. Try saying that 3 times fast. And she helped the dead enter the afterlife. She was seen as a protector and as a role model for women. Queen Cleopatra idolized her, as I pointed out in an earlier video. She was known to associate herself with the god Isis. Sometimes she would dress up in particular garb that reflected the goddess that she worshipped. Isis' name was invoked in the use of healing spells. She was seen as a healer and a magician, and this will be reflected in-game. Her title is Mother of the Aaru, and her affinity is cunning. Like Anubis, Isis is allied with chaos, and as magic user, she is an invoker archetype. Quite frankly, I can't wait to see what Isis is capable of. As per her mythology and raising Osiris from the dead, it stands to reason that she'll be a powerful spellcaster with resurrection and healing abilities. We know Ra is the Egyptian sun god. Due to how revered the sun was in ancient times, it's no wonder he was also seen as king of the gods and the creator of life. Ra was also associated with order and power, and closely associated with the pharaohs who ruled Egypt. It was believed that each day Ra would travel across the sky, and at night he would travel the underworld in a boat pulled by jackals to start his daily journey again. We've seen Ra's ultimate skill showcased before. Though I'm unsure of Ra's specific skills, he's allied with order, his affinity is wisdom, and he's going to be a powerful slayer archetype to have on your team. The enigmatic Sphinx is a wonder to behold. No one knows its true purpose, or even how it was constructed out of a single block of limestone many thousands of years ago. Also, whatever happened to its nose? Oh, but you want to know about the Sphinx as a mythological creature, the Sphinx of legend. A freaky amalgamation of lion, eagle, and person, usually a woman. In Greek mythology, the monstrous Sphinx challenged adventurers with a riddle, devouring them when they were unable to answer it. In the never-ending story, Atreyu was lucky to get past these giant statues' laser eyes. In Egyptian mythology, the Sphinx was a guardian, a protector of temples and tombs, and associated with royalty. Titled Guardian of the Sands in Godforge, Sphinx is a void champion allied with chaos. I couldn't find any information on what this champion will bring to the game, but rest assured that as a legendary defender archetype, it will be as powerful a protector as mythology suggests. Can't wait to see it in action in the game. That's all the legendaries covered. Now onto the epic champions. In a previous video, I already covered Apophis, Jackals of Duat, Sekhmet, and Wadjet. Apophis, also known as Apep, was the serpent god of chaos and darkness, and he was the enemy of the sun god Ra. Sekhmet is a lion-headed goddess. She is associated with war, pestilence, healing, and the desert sun, and Sekhmet was seen as a fearsome protector. Wadjet is the cobra goddess. She became the protector of Egypt alongside Nekhbet, the vulture goddess. And finally, the Jackals of Duat. I'm not sure what this actually refers to. It could be the 12 jackal-headed deities that guard the Sea of Life in Duat, which is the Egyptian underworld. Or it could be the 4 jackals that tow the boat of the sun god Ra when he travels through Duat. Since I don't know their affinities, archetypes, or alliances, I don't have any further information to add to these epic champions. Bastet was a goddess often depicted with the head of a cat or a lioness due to her affiliation with cats. She was an important figure in Egyptian mythology, partly due to the reverence that Egyptians had for cats. Bastet was seen as a protector and bringer of good health, associated with the home, domesticity, women, fertility, and childbirth. She was the daughter of Ra, and as his boat pulled the sun across the sky, she would protect her father. At night, Bastet was believed to take the form of a cat to protect Ra from the serpent Apep, also known as Apophis. This feline champion is strength affinity, and she is associated with order. She is a slayer archetype, and she will come to any fight with claws extended, or daggers, ready to tear into her enemies. I've already covered Cleopatra in a previous video. The historical figure Cleopatra was Queen of Egypt. She had a relationship with both Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, and she was known to associate herself with the god Isis. At this time, I don't have any Godforge specific information, except to add that she has wisdom affinity. Imhotep was a vizier, architect, astrologer, and chief minister to King Joseph. He is accredited with designing a step pyramid in the Egyptian city of Memphis. After his death, Imhotep reached demigod status, showing that aside from being extremely intelligent and knowledgeable, some even say that he was possibly an early genius. He was also very likely an accomplished physician. In-game, Imhotep is titled Priest of Ra. We've already seen his skills in action. This Invoker archetype is shaping up to be a strong team healer. He's of the Order Alliance and Wisdom affinity. Osiris was ruler of Duat, the Egyptian underworld, and the final judge. He was also the god of agriculture, including the annual flooding of the Nile, fertility, death, and resurrection. I covered this in a previous video, but Seth, also known as Set, killed Osiris, and Isis attempted to resurrect him. Since I know nothing yet about Godforge lore, I have no idea if this part of the mythology will be in the game at all. In Godforge, Osiris is titled Lord of Silence, and he's of the Wisdom affinity. He's allied with Order, and is a brawler archetype. I expect him to charge into enemies and hit them pretty hard. Next up is Set. I've covered this character in a previous video.
Alright, who's this Setesh fella?
Otherwise known as Setek. Set, Seti, Seth. Ancient Egyptian god of chaos, embodiment of hostility and outright evil.
Set was also the god of deserts, storms, and violence. In the stories, he was said to have murdered his own brother, Osiris, who was later resurrected. No one's actually sure what animal represents Set, though it is said that it could be a jackal or a donkey. In the game, Set is titled Deity of Disorder, and he is of the Cunning affinity. His alliance is Chaos, and his archetype is Disruptor. I also showcased Set's skills in a previous video. Set's first attack is called Desert Mirage, and it reads, attack one enemy for X damage with a 75% up to 100% chance to place initiative down 1 on all enemies for 1 turn. The second attack is called Jealous Retribution, and it reads, attack one enemy for X damage, then has a 50% up to 75% chance to steal a random buff. Decrease this ability cooldown by 1 turn if a buff is not stolen. This third ability is called Seeds of Chaos, and it reads, attack all enemies for X damage with a 50% up to 75% chance to place Despair for 1 turn, and a 75% up to 100% chance to place Accuracy down 2 for 2 turns. On to the rare champions. I'm going to start with Ankhesenamun, the daughter of Queen Nefertiti and King Akhenaten. Ankhesenamun became a ruler of Egypt alongside the young king Tutankhamun. Most information we have about her is speculative, though she did live during a time of religious change where the god Amun came back into prominence, hence the inclusion of Amun in her royal name. In Godforge, Ankhesenamun is titled Sunrise Redeemer. She's Wisdom Affinity, Order Alliance, and Invoker archetype. I think she has a nice model for a rare champion, and the fact that she's dual wielding suggests she should be able to dish out some pretty good damage. I've already covered Bennu. Bennu is an Egyptian deity, often depicted as a heron, and he is linked with the sun, creation, and rebirth. Sometimes Bennu is associated with Osiris. I don't have any information about the Godforge version of this character, but I'm definitely excited to see what they come up with. Nefertiti was a queen of Egypt, and she was married to King Akhenaten. Some historians believe she may have been co-ruler with her husband, rather than just a consort, and it's accepted that she worshipped alongside her husband at the temple of Aten, the sun god at the time. Nefertiti had 6 daughters, 2 of whom also became queens, and she was the embodiment of a fertility goddess to women at the time. Nefertiti is recognizable as a beautiful figure with a tall, flat-topped headdress, unique to Egyptian rulers. Perhaps one of the most recognizable names in Egyptian history, Ramses or Ramesses II, is also known as Ramesses the Great. Films have been made and books written about him, mostly due to his accomplishments. Aside from building a magnificent residence and no fewer than 6 temples, Ramesses was known for his military campaigns. He attempted to conquer surrounding people groups before settling on peace, but not before getting an ego boost from everything he'd achieved and solidifying Egypt's prosperity. In Godforge, the Ramses model looks great. He's holding a crook and flail, and he looks ready to put his great military mind to the task of knocking his enemies down a peg or 2. I have good reason to believe that Ramses is one of 3 starter champions. Here we see him alongside Brynhild, Guan Yu, and Lady Shock as part of the opening sequence. Brynhild is an epic character, which leaves Ramses, Guan Yu, and Lady Shock. We've also seen one of his attacks. I just love the impact and feel of this skill. Ramses is Strength Affinity, allied with Chaos, and is the Slayer archetype. I can't wait to find out more about what Ramses does, and also confirmation of whether he's actually going to be one of our first picks. Pretty sure he is. The last rare that we know about is Tutankhamun. I've talked about the history of Tutankhamun in a previous video. Tutankhamun, also known as Tutankhamun, or King Tut, was actually a historical figure. He was a king that lived in ancient Egypt. He died very young and was buried in a royal tomb. This tomb was discovered in the Valley of Kings in Egypt in the 1920s by an archaeological expedition. There's a bit of mythology surrounding the discovery of the tomb. They say that there was the curse of the pharaohs because people connected with the expedition mysteriously died. Tutankhamun's name is a reflection of a return to the classic Egyptian pantheon, where Amun was known as the king of the gods. He was also the god of air and fertility. We've also seen Tutankhamun's skills in action. Tutankhamun is Order Alliance, Cunning Affinity, and he is the Slayer archetype. He looks like he's ready to dish out some serious damage. Now for the uncommon champions. First up, we have the Jackal. In Egypt, jackals were associated with the dead and often scavenged around tombs and burial sites. we've already covered the connection between Anubis, jackals, and the underworld. As for Godforge, I don't have any information on this character except it's not the only beast in the game. Mummies are embalmed and preserved corpses. The Egyptians had their own method of embalming to preserve the body of the deceased for as long as they could, in the belief that one's body was required to reunite the soul in the afterlife. In mythology, we've seen mummies as undead creatures come back to haunt the living or protect a sacred site. Within fantasy, the capabilities of a mummy are open to interpretation. They can be slow, shambling monstrosities, or your worst nightmare when exploring a crypt. In Godforge, mummy is entitled Embalmed Servant. It's Chaos Alliance, Brawler Archetype, and Wisdom Affinity. The last in our short list of uncommon champions is the Nubian Warrior. Nubian archers were especially renowned for their battle competence, and the Nubian army controlled parts of Egypt in ancient times. Even the Egyptian military enlisted these archers into their ranks due to their impressive skill with a bow. We've seen this guy a handful of times in Fateless videos. I suspect that Nubian Warrior was one of the earliest models to be put into the game. Titled Bowmaster, it is Strength Affinity, Order Alliance, and the Slayer archetype. That's all for uncommon champions, but we still have a few common champions to cover. In Godforge, the Composite Bowman goes by the title Precision Deadeye. Of Order Alliance and Cunning Affinity, these deadly archers are, of course, of the Slayer archetype. The Desert Raider goes by the title Nomadic Warrior. Of Chaos Alliance and Strength Affinity, this warrior is also of the Slayer archetype. Our last character to talk about is the Medjay, a group of elite fighters that became rangers, mercenaries, and a police force, ensuring order and that the pharaoh's interests were met. I don't know anything about the Medjay in Godforge, not even what the model looks like. There are still plenty of Egyptian characters from mythology and history that could be added to the game. Here are a few champions that I would like to see added. First up, we have Khonsu. His name means traveler, wanderer, or navigator in relation to his strong association with the moon and how it traverses across the sky. The son of Amun and Mut, Khonsu was also the god of time. He's often depicted with the head of a falcon and has been known to carry a scythe which has a curved blade like the crescent moon. Worshippers saw Khonsu as a protector in the night, as well as protector from wild animals, and believed that a shining crescent moon was a symbol of good fertility. If they put Khonsu into the game, I think he'd probably be an epic champion, maybe a legendary, but definitely an epic champion. He would wield a big scythe with two hands, and they would have to have some reference to the shining crescent moon or something like that. But that's basically what I'm hoping for. Thoth was usually depicted with the head of an ibis, perhaps because of its curved beak, which reminded people of a crescent moon. Are you sensing a theme here? Thoth was the husband of Maat, goddess of truth, harmony, and justice. Thoth was the god of the moon, wisdom, knowledge, writing, hieroglyphs, science, magic, art, and judgment. What a lot of responsibility. As the inventor of writing, he was also the scribe of the underworld, recording the outcome of the scales of judgment, where the feather of Maat was weighed against a person's heart. If they do introduce Thoth, I hope they make him a really strong disruptor who brings powerful magics to bear against his enemies while buffing his team to deal out vast amounts of damage. Shezmu is an interesting one. This god can be perceived as rather contradictory. On the one hand, Shezmu is associated with oils and perfumes, festivity and dancing. But on the other, he's accredited with bloodthirst and he's called the slaughterer of gods. Whichever way you lean, Shezmu is usually depicted with the head of a lion. If they include this guy in the game, be sure that he will have a wicked model. I can just picture him as a seriously badass dual-wielding slayer archetype, possibly spilling red wine everywhere. It's not blood, I swear. The golden goddess, Hathor, was an important part of the Egyptian pantheon. She was associated with the sky, love, beauty, music, fertility, childbirth, rebirth, celebration, and joy. And women saw her as a protector and promoter of women's health. Also known as the mother goddess, Hathor was associated with the cow, often shown as a beautiful woman with a solar disk between cow's horns. Hathor held a prominent place upon Ra's barge as it traversed both the sky and the underworld each day and night. She came to be known as the feminine equivalent of Osiris. Women sought to be blessed by Hathor in the afterlife. Sobek was the lord of the crocodiles and was depicted with the head of a crocodile. Some stories have Sobek as the creator of order in the universe. However, he's often seen as dangerous or unpredictable, much like crocodiles themselves, and so was sometimes associated with chaos. Sobek was also the god of the Nile, and with fertility of people and crops. Quite a number of mummified crocodiles have been found in Egyptian tombs, showing the reverence that the people had both for crocodiles and for the crocodile god. If Sobek makes it into the game, not only will he have an incredible model, but I would imagine he'll be a powerful champion who charges into battle without hesitation. The final character I would like to see added to the Aaru faction is Ammit, the Devourer of Souls. She's usually depicted with the head of a crocodile, forelegs of a lion, and the hindquarters of a hippopotamus. What a chimera of a beast. Ammit would consume any heart that weighed more than the feather of Mard, thus sealing the fate of any person who had not lived a life of truth, justice, and order. Although I would like to see Ammit in the Aaru faction, she could be a champion, or a boss, or some other creature that you face in the game. She would no doubt have skills related to debuffing her enemies, such as slowing them down or freezing them in place with fear, and there could be a reference to her task of consuming the hearts of the unworthy. Let me know in the comments what you think of the Aaru faction so far and who your favourite is. And if you want to see any other Egyptian figures added to the game before it's released, I'd like to know who you would pick. I'm Gecko Mayhem, and I hope that you have a fantastic day. Thank you for watching.